Thank you so much, Milos, for having me. My name is Neil Tan. I'm the founder and chairman of AIHK, or the Artificial Intelligence Association of Hong Kong. I'm also the managing partner of Tsunami Advisors, an advisory and consulting firm inside of AI and also Web3. A little bit of background on myself. I've been inside of Asia over the last 20 years, so based out of Hong Kong. Essentially, gone through a number of different careers in different industries. I started off in areas like industry, so I used to work for Siemens, I used to work for Philips Electronics, so this is a little bit of a homecoming, coming back to Amsterdam. But I've also worked in consulting at BCG, I've worked in finance at Deutsche Bank and also HSBC. So how I ended up more or less inside of AI and also Web3 is essentially when I got into finance, I did quite a bit inside of AI. So when I was at HSBC, I was head of business development over their digital partnerships and innovation team. And that was focused primarily on embedded finance. So things like digital payments, lending, wealth, and insurance inside of what they call as non-banking financial institutions, so NBFIs, and learned quite a bit of how to use different types of data, both from the bank and also third parties, in terms of whether it's talking about user acquisition or product introductions and things like that. So that's how I got into the AI space. And ultimately, after HSBC, I actually started my own Web3 startup inside of blockchain. So that's kind of where the combination between the two came from. Basically, when we look inside of the market, inside of Hong Kong, top side of the market, great technology firms or technology associations, mostly professors, PhDs, universities that are doing that. Bottom side, a lot of consumer, but in the middle where the corporates and institutions are is really the gap, and that's where we're addressing. AIHK is focused on corporates and institutional adoption, commercialization, and use cases of AI. And ultimately what we want to do is make Hong Kong a global AI hub. And essentially AIHK is really a center of excellence in terms of its capabilities to leverage the cross-sector approach, learning from different industries, different functions, and also having the AI safety and governance overarching this whole topic. So that's what we're trying to do, is build a center of excellence, both from a markets perspective as well as from a governance perspective. Well, I think that a lot of people think that, especially when they use AI for their own personal uses, that it's very simple, it's very easy, and there's no question there is. But once you institutionalize that or put it into a corporate setting, then there are a lot of other controls that need to be in place. So that's why we talk about AI safety and governance as a key point, because without safety and security, data is free-flowing, and a lot of different possibilities of this data leakage or other different types of risks that are introduced inside of that. So even though we're focused primarily on commercialization and use case, this has to be done in a responsible way, whether it's talking about different liability, different bias, and those different things, explainability of the models and things. All of those have to come into play, much more so than if you were writing an email by yourself. It's a completely different thing, right? So it's very important from a corporate and institutional perspective to have that type of responsible AI. Two different things. The way that I kind of look at it is, in terms of different sectors, the less regulated a sector, the more AI adoption. The more regulated, the less AI adoption. It just kind of doesn't matter, what sector it could be. It could be finance, it could be healthcare, it could be other areas where it has some limitations due to the regulatory environment or the compliance requirements. But in things like, let's say, retail or general marketing and things like that, that's probably where much more adoption is there, and there's actually net new innovation that's coming out in terms of the approach to products, the propositions, and the business models that they approach. So I think that's kind of the dimensions that I look at it from a regulatory perspective. Having said that, I think from a functional perspective, you have front office and back office. So much more adoption inside of the back office, because you don't have as much liability in that situation than you go into a front office situation dealing with clients and so forth. So essentially, I think those are basically complementary, right? So when we say if blockchain is the body, AI is the brain, how does the brain control the whole system? Of course, you can have all different types of tokenization of real world assets, you could talk about stable coins, you could talk about programmable money, but without the brains, it doesn't work, right? So to the extent that must be an even greater alignment between these two technologies is understated at this point, because everyone is focused on one or the other. But the person that is going to win, or the company that's going to win, is the one that integrates both. And ultimately, that will also be helping how to scale all the blockchain and different use cases inside of it. So the next big thing, well, it depends. Every 6 to 12 months, or every month or every week, it's happening something new. So I think, what's the killer app? I mean, they talk about spatial AI, they talk about vertical AI, a lot of these different things. I think when people talk about there being a bubble inside of AI, I often say, which bubble are you talking about? Because if you look at the Gartner, hype cycles and things like that, I mean, the hype cycle you look at goes up and down, and you say, oh, Gen AI is on the other side of the hill. But if you look on the other side where things are coming up, everything has something AI. So it's all these other different topics of AI that are actually climbing the hill. And so I think ultimately AI in of itself is going to continue to have these different types of iterations, and whether or not it's past its prime depends on what that application or that use case is. So I don't think that AI has that short of a cycle. I think we're on a super cycle of AI. It's just what flavor of AI or what type of AI there will be. Yeah, I think, so I'm on the board of another school actually in Hong Kong. And it's primary, secondary schools, who goes up to high school and so forth. My view on education is that it's changing. AI is changing the entire game of AI in education, or education in of itself. So even if you look at, big tech, if you talk about, Meta, and you talk about Microsoft, and you talk about, Google or Apple and so forth, you have a lot of people saying that there is a diminishing return in terms of the 4-year degree. So to the extent that you say the social contract still remains, to be seen if it's still valid. So when I say social contract, means that go study hard, get into a college, go find a job, stay in that career, get married, have kids, and et cetera, et cetera. That social contract is being rewritten because of AI. And ultimately, what that means is people will have to use AI to adopt quicker. We're even seeing, if you look at university graduates, they are having a difficult time finding the job after school. So they need to adopt it and actually arguably do one of two things. One is how do I leverage that AI for different corporates and institutions? Or how do I leverage AI to build a business? So I either go into the corporate, but I have to lead with AI, or I have to be an entrepreneur and I still have to lead with AI. So looking at that type of journey is going to be very crucial for them going forward. So really go after adopting AI, but with less of I need the knowledge, but with true intentions of actually building things, whether it's a business or a product like you're doing, so on and so forth.